accidentally dirted my shoes and socks at the palace banquet, and the crown prince happened to see me in my awkward state. He looked down at my soaked socks. Suddenly, I saw several big words floating in the air. He's standing up, isn't he about to explode? The male lead acts all noble and upright. But he actually wants to kiss those little feet raw. She's a married woman. A married woman. He. I stared at these hyla-liked words floating above and shivered. Trembling, I said, "Your Highness, I have a husband." 1. I was dragged to the palace banquet by my sister-in-law. She said that since my husband was away, as his wife, I should network with the nobles, but I didn't know anyone at the banquet. Their flattery made me sick. While she wasn't looking, I snuck out to a green lake. I stared at my carefully made-up face in the water, paired with a gloomy expression. I helplessly reached out and stirred the lake. It's all the crown prince's fault for not marrying at his age, holding this stupid banquet to pick ladies. As soon as I finished, a sharp voice came from not far away. "Who's there?" I flinched, slipped on the wet ground, and fell straight into the lake. I forgot all about dignity and screamed, "Help!" The water only reached my calves when someone grabbed my arms and pulled me out. I bent over awkwardly, patting the water off my clothes, and thanked the pair of black boots with golden patterns in front of me. "Thank you." I looked up and met the man's eyes, endless black, fixed on my soaked shoes and socks. I couldn't help shivering from the cold. I was about to thank him again when colorful words suddenly floated in the air. 2. Baby girl finally met the male lead. Male lead, stop holding back, your eyes are about to devour her. He's standing up, isn't he about to explode? The male lead acts all noble and upright. But he actually wants to kiss those little feet raw. She's a married woman. A married woman. He. I don't know if it was the words, but I strangely felt the man's gaze was really piercing through me, and, the more obscene the words, the yellower they were. I trembled in fear and added timidly, "Your Highness, I have a husband." The man's eyes darkened. He lifted one corner of his lips and sneered, "Though I remain unmarried, I do not desire just anyone." More words floated in the air at that moment. "Ooh, tough talk from the male lead. Better not have wet dreams tonight. Such a hard mouth, no wonder your wife has another man." I stared at his lips, red. They didn't look very hard, probably because I stared too obviously. The man leaned close to my face and teased, "What? Has this lady fallen for my face? Or do you want to cheat on your husband? Lecture." I blushed at his filthy words and stumbled back, nearly falling. The man immediately grabbed me and pulled me into his arms. I whispered, "You're not even 1/10,000th as good-looking as my husband, ugly monster." The man's grip tightened, squeezing my waist until it hurt. "It hurts." He seemed to realize something and let go. He coldly ordered his servant to bring new shoes and socks, but wouldn't hand them to me. He raised an eyebrow provocatively. "My lady, how will you repay this ugly monster who's helping you?" 3. I blinked blankly and saw golden words floating above. "Baby girl, reward him by letting him change your shoes. Kneel, submit, it'll drive him wild." I got distracted and blurted out the rest words. "Then, I reward you by changing my shoes and socks for me." I regretted it as soon as I spoke. It was deadly quiet. The servants tactfully turned their backs. I hopped awkwardly to leave, but he yanked me back. The man knelt silently in front of me, his long fingers casually peeling off my soaked socks and tossing them aside. He clumsily pulled on the new ones. I flinched from the warmth of his palm, but he held my foot fast. His voice turned low and rough. "Don't move." I stood frozen, watching him busy himself at my feet. When he finished, I mumbled a thank you and ran away without looking back. I didn't dare glance at the man behind me. Later I guessed, the man I met was none other than the crown prince, Xuan, heir to the throne. Still unmarried, to think, he fancied a minister's wife. Truly, truly terrifying. I fell ill that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the crown prince's fierce, cold face. After half a month of being sick, I finally understood. Those floating words were called Danmuk comments. They said the crown prince was obsessed with me and would force his love on me. But I had a husband. Half a month later, the maids told me the court was comforting military families and had recalled my husband. The exploded again. The male lead loves her so much he even brought his rival back. Last night the male lead dreamed of her being intimate with her husband and cried little tears. 4. I was shocked. How would the crown prince cry over a woman he'd only met once? But before I could think more, my husband rushed in full armor. He went straight to the bed, touched my pale cheek tenderly, and said worriedly, "Why are you sick? Did the servants not take care of you?" I shook my head and sat up stiffly, feeling distant. Truth be told, this was only the second time I'd seen my husband. The first time was our wedding night. He just lifted my veil and said, "I have to leave, a royal order." "I'm sorry to wrong you, my lady." I said nothing, just nodded. This husband wasn't my choice, he'd chosen me. Sensing my distance, Song Ju-jun pulled his hand back and said gently, "The crown prince granted my return. He's holding a feast for us military officers. Everyone's bringing their wives, if you would." I knew what he meant and nodded quietly. I didn't really want to go, but as a wife, I had to do my duty. 5. Song Ju-jun and I rode to the Eastern Palace in the same carriage. When we got out, he lifted me down gently and held my hand to our seats. But I felt a cold chill on my back. The floated up again. This show-off male lead even cried secretly. Have the guts to look at her openly. I turned around and saw Xie Hongxuan walking in from the door. His eyes red, as if he really had been crying. Impossible. Everyone knew the crown prince was cruel and cold. How could he cry just because I was close to my husband? No way. Xie Hongxuan sat at the main seat, his gaze sweeping over Song Ju-jun and me, telling everyone to relax. I watched other ladies feed their husbands, so I copied them and put a piece of food in Song Ju-jun's bowl. He looked at me, smiled, and fed me a piece of fish. I opened my mouth nervously and swallowed. Before I could finish chewing, Xie Hongxuan said sarcastically, "I didn't know military wives were so delicate they can't even feed themselves." I stared blankly at Xie Hongxuan. His eyes looked even redder. I lost my appetite after being scolded, afraid he'd pick on me again. I thought the banquet would end early. But the crown prince asked Song Ju-jun to stay in his study. I had to wander the back garden alone. As I reached the rockery, someone suddenly pulled me into a cave. A man's large hand covered my mouth and nose, his rough fingertips rubbing my face. The smell of alcohol filled the cave. I could clearly feel his warm breath on my neck like a snake slithering close, wandering everywhere. I struggled in fear, then saw the above. The male lead can't hold back anymore. Time for forced love. Why does he cry even when holding her? Such a sentimental man. My collar by my neck was indeed wet. I never thought my captor was the crown prince. He held my waist tightly, his hand roaming slowly upward, even touching the jade pendant against my skin. "Were you not full just now? It's improper to leave guests hungry." I flinched from the heat of his hand and shook my head tremblingly. "Your Highness, no need." He laughed bitterly. "You recognized me. Then why haven't you remembered me?" His words made no sense until I looked up at the 6. Why hasn't baby girl remembered the male lead? Poor male lead, loving her alone all these years. It seemed Xie Hongxuan and I had a past, but I truly didn't remember ever knowing the crown prince. "Your Highness, I think I remember." But the man behind me didn't believe me at all. He chuckled. He spun me around and pressed me against the stone wall. I was trapped in his arms, forced to look at him. Xie Hongxuan was drunk. His face was flushed, staring at me motionlessly from my neck to my chin. My lips, my nose, finally fixing on my eyes. I swallowed unconsciously and whispered softly, "Your Highness, you're drunk. You've got the wrong person. I'm General Song's wife." At my words, he grabbed my chin, leaned close, and snarled, "I'm not drunk. I've been looking for you all along." I stared at him, speechless. He punched the wall in anger and kissed me roughly. I was forced to tilt my head back, enduring his inexplicable fury. Why? Just because he was the crown prince? I was furious and bit him, but this lecher didn't even feel pain. Even though I could taste the blood in my mouth, he kept kissing me deeper, greedy for more. Only when I could barely breathe did he finally let me go. Reluctant, I glared at him furiously and slapped him. "Lecher, disgusting." I ran out. 7. The comments exploded, filling the screen with screams. "When will baby girl remember our male lead? She even said she'd marry him back then. Who knew Song Ju-jun stole her away in secret?" What were they talking about? I swear I never knew either the Crown Prince or Song Ju-jun before. I ran faster, desperate to know what I'd forgotten. Being kept in the dark felt terrible, like being smothered under a wet cloth. I headed for the study. Before I even reached it, I saw Song Ju-jun. I was running too fast to stop and crashed straight into his chest. He wrapped his arms around me and looked down worriedly. "What's wrong?" I didn't hear a word he said. I only saw the floating comments. "The male lead's gonna cry again tonight." I glanced to the side and saw Xie Hongxuan staring at me, eyes red. I tugged Song Jujuan's sleeve and shook my head. "Husband, let's go home." He took my hand, smiled, and led me back to the carriage. On the ride, I looked at his strong face and asked softly, "Did we meet before you married me?" Song Jujun froze and reached out to touch me. Sway, what's wrong?" I shrank back, holding back my tears. "Don't lie to me, husband." 8. His hand hung in the air. He kept his polite smile. "We did, you just forgot." So, the Crown Prince hadn't been talking nonsense. I looked at him hopefully, begging him to tell me about the memory I'd lost. But no matter how I pressed him, he refused. Men really are all the same, liars. Before the carriage even stopped, I jumped off angrily, ignoring Song Jujun behind me. I stormed back to my room alone. He followed silently. I went in, he went in. Furious, I threw all the ink and brushes at him. Thud. A big red mark bloomed on his forehead, but he was calm. He didn't say a word, just bent to pick everything up and set it neatly on the desk. He stepped in front of me, rubbed my arm, and asked softly, "Feeling better?" "Tired." I pouted and tried to pull away, but he held my arm tight. He soothed me gently. "Lady, if you forgot the past, it means it wasn't important. No matter what happened before, I'm your husband now, aren't I?" I watched the comments flash wildly. This second male lead is so scheming. He wants to keep her all to himself. No, she's still wearing the love token from our male lead. I touched the cool jade pendant around my neck. "I understand. I won't ask again." Song Jujun smiled and tapped my nose. After he left, I sat blankly on the bed, staring at the comments. I pieced it together. Once, I'd known Xie Hongxuan. We'd promised ourselves to each other. But I forgot, and they said Song Jujun was the villainous second male lead. Knowing the Crown Prince wanted me, he planned to lock me in the manor forever, until he assassinated Xie Hongxuan. It seemed Song Jujun knew everything, and he wasn't going to tell me. I told the maids to pack my things. I was a living person. How could he treat me like this? Now that I knew the story, I had to plan ahead. I had to escape the Song Manor. I would go to Xie Hongxuan. I deserved to know the truth. But before I could finish packing, Song Jujun stormed in, face like iron. 9. He snatched my bag and grabbed my wrist hard. The scar on his palm dug into my flesh. His usual tenderness was gone. He gritted his teeth and shouted, "Why do you have to go to him? Why do you still choose him? What's so great about him? His title, his power. You're my wife." He shoved me. I fell onto the couch and looked up at him. "If we're husband and wife, why did you lie to me? Why hide things?" Song Jujuan's face turned cold. He couldn't answer. He locked me in my room. All my usual maids were dismissed. I was under house arrest. 4 days. I refused to see him. He thought I was just throwing a fit, but I was planning my escape. The comments kept me updated. "Run, baby girl. The psycho second lead was called away by your husband. Burn the manor down and climb over the wall." Taking my chance, I lit the candles and set the curtains on fire. Flames quickly spread across one corner. I screamed at the top of my lungs. "Fire! Help!" Thick black smoke stung my eyes. Panic erupted outside. The ladies still inside. But the master said no one opens the door without his order. I heard their chaos and pushed the window open. No one was guarding it anymore. I rolled up my sleeves and climbed out. By the time they dared put out the fire, I was already gone from the Song Manor. 10. I meant to go straight to Xie Hongxuan. But after the fire, Song Jujun rushed back immediately. He even sent his private soldiers, disguised in the crowd, several times. I almost got caught, thanks to the comments. "Run, the scar-faced man ahead is the second lead spy. Go east. There's an old temple. Hide with the beggars." Wait, does she actually hear us? I followed the words, mixed in with beggars, rubbing dirt on my face. Only when the scouts left did I finally breathe. Now I wanted to find Xie, at least to clarify what we'd had, but he was either in the Eastern Palace or surrounded by guards. I couldn't get near. I looked up at the sky and begged sincerely, "Heaven, how can I see Xie? Baby girl's so sad. She can't meet her real husband. She can sneak onto his carriage. He'll lose his mind." That actually sounded good. I'd do it. 4 days, my money ran out, and I didn't even catch a glimpse of him. He'd been busy lately. The whole Eastern Palace felt gloomy. I watched for days and finally got my chance. I used my last coins to bribe the carriage driver, changed into a servant's clothes, and crept closer. As soon as I jumped on, the comments screamed warnings. "Run, the corrupt official from Jiangnan is here. He tried to offer beauties to Xie before, got kicked out of the hall." The man's servant carried a box of gold and jewels toward the carriage. Through the curtain, I saw him stop, take the box, and climb in. No wonder someone dared enter the royal carriage. He was here to bribe him. He looked up and saw me immediately. He held the box in one hand and blocked my way with the other. "Who are you? How dare you sneak onto the crown prince's carriage?" I saw his fat, greedy face and the gold in his hands, and guessed everything. I'd heard the crown prince was ruthless with corrupt officials. This one just didn't know when to quit. Before I could speak, he dragged me out. I stumbled off the carriage. He threw me to his men and ordered coldly, "This woman saw us. Kill her." 11. I stared in terror, struggling desperately. Remembering what the comments said about him offering beauties, I thought fast. A knife was almost at my throat. I gasped and shouted, "Don't kill me. I'm the crown prince's woman." He dragged me back, squinted at my face, and stroked my cheek with his greasy hand. "Pretty. Looks a lot like General Song's little wife." My back was soaked with cold sweat. I trembled but forced myself calm. "My lord, that's exactly why His Highness likes me. He prefers married women. He's quite unusual." He squeezed my chin, studying me, trying to tell if I was lying. Shaking, I pulled out the jade pendant around my neck and held it up. "Show this to His Highness. He'll accept it. Your trip won't be wasted." The man took the pendant, grinning. "Fine, I'll give you a chance." I was locked in the woodshed. When the sun set, they let me out. The man was laughing wildly, joking with his men. If I'd known the crown prince liked this, I'd have rounded up a dozen married women for him. When he saw me, he ordered maids to dress me up. They put me in a skimpy dancer's outfit, barely more than thin cloth. I'm supposed to dance." The maid smiled. "Yes, sir. The Lord invited His Highness to watch you dance." But I was terrible at dancing. 12. Wearing a light pink veil and matching dancer's dress, I was led into the secret banquet in the Eastern Palace. Only a few corrupt officials and Xie were present. I stood with the other dancers in the center. Xie sat at the main seat, drinking with his head half lowered, his eyes glued to me. The Danmu, which had been quiet for ages, popped up again. The leads finally reunite, the male lead secretly staring at his wife again. "Be careful you don't scare her by popping a boner." I got distracted, messed up my steps, stumbled out of the group. As I turned to copy the others, Xie stepped down from the main seat and stood right in front of me. I stepped back forward and stepped straight onto his toe. I panicked and tried to pull away, but Xie held me firmly in place. I was standing on his foot. They hadn't given me shoes for this dance, only silver bells around my ankles, clinking loudly. Maybe it was just my mind, but my soul felt burning hot, not my own heat. 13. At the sight of me, Xie chuckled and waved a hand. The music stopped. The guests laughed and teased. "Looks like we'll see His Highness break his rules tonight. This girl's lucky to warm your bed, Your Highness." They didn't know. But I did. They were all going to die. TSK, still grinning. "The male lead's gonna gut you in a second. Don't scare our cute baby girl." Xie lifted me into his arms, carried me to the main seat, and sat me on his lap. He smiled, but his eyes were cold. "Indeed lucky. She deserves something to match it." He handed me a cup of wine and fed it to me slowly. Wine dribbled down my chin. I licked it away. The crown prince's wine tasted terrible. Seeing my disgusted face, he curled his lip again, tossed the cup onto the floor. It clanged sharply. At once, Hidden guards charged in with swords, attacking the guests. Xie Hengshuan covered my eyes with his hand, pressed close to my neck, and whispered softly, "Dirty things, don't look." Without sight, the sound of blades sinking into flesh was even clearer. I heard their curses between screams. It felt weirdly familiar, too familiar, like I'd seen this before. I shrank closer to him, clinging tight. Xie Hengshuan stiffened, then held me completely. He mumbled, "These people were good for something, at least." The slaughter ended when a guard reported to him. Xie Hengshuan answered casually, then carried me out. The Danmu flashed again. Guess if the male leads hard now, are we finally gonna get some action tonight? For some reason, I really did feel something hard pressing against me. 14. Xie Hengshuan carried me all the way to a chamber and laid me gently on the bed. He turned to leave. I grabbed his belt and stopped him. "Your Highness, wait." He turned and looked down at me, his voice tight, scared. I frowned and shook my head, looking up at him. "Your Highness, what were we to each other? I forgot." He froze, knelt on one knee beside the bed, and stared at me. Sway, do you remember me now?" I twisted my hands nervously and stammered, No, Your Highness, can you tell me?" Xie Hengshuan shook his head, giving me a condition. "I can't, unless you give me what I want." He'd forced a kiss on me last time. I steeled myself, grabbed his collar, and kissed him. At first Xie Hengshuan was still, tense like a board, then he kissed me back, hungry and deep. Slowly, he took control. I was forced to tilt my head back, held tight in his arms. In the end, he bit my lip, soft, ticklish, sore. Xie Hengshuan wiped my mouth with his thumb. He pulled out the jade pendant, hung it back around my neck, his voice rough. "This was mine for you. Sway, wear it. If you forgot, I'll tell you everything later. For now, just remember, the man you love most is me." Xie Hengshuan. 15. My face burned at his words. My heart thudded wildly. I stared at him, speechless. He pinched my cheek and told me to rest. "It's late. Sleep well. I'll take you out tomorrow." He left without looking back, closing the door carefully. I rolled back and forth on the bed, shy and flustered. When I turned my head, I saw the excited Danmu. That kiss was so innocent, not even deep enough. The male lead's gonna go take care of himself now. They'd seen everything. I'm never kissing him again. So embarrassing. 16. A maid brought a emerald green dress. I changed and stepped outside, and saw Xie Hengshuan waiting. He walked over, took my hand, and led me out. Today he wore ordinary clothes, and even the carriage was just a merchant's. We rode out to the countryside. I lifted the curtain and looked at the scenery. I tugged his sleeve and said without thinking, "There's a temple on the hill ahead. I know a small path up." As soon as I said it, I realized, that wasn't right. How would a sheltered lady like me know that? I looked at Xie Hengshuan guiltily. He leaned lazily, watching me panic. The carriage stopped at the foot of the hill. Xie Hengshuan gestured for me to lead. I pulled him by the sleeve and walked up. It was strange. The path felt so familiar. The temple wasn't far. We reached it quickly. The abbot was sweeping at the gate. He stared at me, then smiled warmly. "Benefactor, it's the first time I've seen you come with your husband in all these years. He always came alone before." I blushed and greeted him. After a few words, Xie Hengshuan led me to the main hall. He picked up an offering from the altar, wiped it, and handed it to me. I quickly put it back and whispered, "Your Highness, these are for the gods. You can't just eat them." He gave me a "so what" look. "You used to not only eat them, you snuck them to me. And, right here in this hall, you touched me, pulled at my clothes." I clapped a hand over his mouth. What shameless things was he saying? 17. Every time Xie Hengshuan started talking like that, I shut him up. I didn't want to hear about the past anymore. He could only take me down the hill helplessly at sunset. As soon as we stepped out of the temple, an arrow shot straight at Xie Hengshuan. "Your Highness, look out." Xie Hengshuan blocked the arrow with his hand. His palm was cut, blood dripping down. I stared behind us, terrified. A man stood on the tower. I couldn't see his face clearly. He made a hand signal, and men poured in from all sides. Xie Hengshuan pulled me and ran. He'd come as a merchant today. With almost no guards, we fled through the woods like stray dogs. The assassins weren't after me, they were after Xie Hengshuan. Their arrows barely came near me. Xiaohongshuan noticed too. Sway sway. Hide on that slope ahead. Don't worry about me. I looked at him and said nothing. He pressed his dagger into my hand and pushed me hard toward the slope. The pursuers chased after his silhouette. By the time I climbed back up, Xiaohongshuan was gone, leading them away. I looked around, helpless. I'd lost him. I begged the air, shouting, "You must know where they went. Please tell me. I need to find him." The scrolling Danmu froze, then flooded the screen. Holy shit, she can see us. Then she saw everything I said before. They went west. Go save your husband. 18. I stumbled after the Danmu's directions and found them. Xiaohongshuan was surrounded by black-cloaked men. The leader wore a mask, aiming an arrow at him. I squinted at the scar on his wrist. It looked familiar. I remembered. They'd said it before. Song Zhujun was going to assassinate Xiaohongshuan. This was Song Zhujun. Baby girl, save the male lead. He's gonna get shot by his rival, holding the dagger. I charged at the leader. Just as he was about to fire, I drove the blade into his arm. The man gasped in pain. Before I could pull the dagger out, several arrows pierced my chest. I looked down slowly. I didn't feel it at first. Then it hurt. Bad. These arrows are really accurate. I coughed up a mouthful of blood onto him. Splattering his mask, the man stared at me in disbelief. Song Zhujun, why are you attacking the Eastern Palace? I complained. Wronged. I wanted to say more. But I had no strength left. I collapsed. As I blacked out, I saw Xiaohongshuan's eyes red, summoning a flood of hidden guards. Damn it, why didn't the stupid Danmu mention the guards? I might as well die from the pain. 19. I must be dying. They say your life flashes before your eyes. I not only remembered the past, I saw Xiaohongshuan. I'd met him while recovering in the countryside. I'd gone to the mountain temple to pray, but Xiaohongshuan was hiding under the altar. Every time I kowtowed, one offering disappeared, so I stopped kowtowing. I stared and finally caught the little thief. Back then, Xiaohongshuan wasn't this dark. His pretty peach eyes stared right at me. I swallowed and scolded him. How dare you steal from the gods? I saw his hand go to the knife at his waist. I picked the tastiest cake from the altar and held it out. This one's the best. If you're gonna steal, steal the good stuff. He just stared at me, not taking it. Our standoff ended when Xiaohongshuan collapsed from exhaustion. I nearly died of fright. I dragged him out with all my strength, and saw his back soaked in blood. I glanced at the Buddha statue and whispered, Amitabha, forgive me, Buddha, I'm not just doing this because he's handsome. I stripped off his upper clothes in no time. Luckily, I was always weak and carried medicine with me. As the sun set, Xiaohongshuan slowly opened his eyes. He covered his chest, blushing furiously, and stammered, You're outrageous. Just as he finished, Song Zhujun ran into the hall, awkward. 20. Song Zhujun thanked me on Xiaohongshuan's behalf and walked me out. He threatened me quietly, Miss, loose lips get people killed. If I didn't have anyone else my age to play with out here, I wouldn't bother with them. After half a month of seeing each other, we grew close. Xiaohongshuan didn't talk much, blushed easily, and was such a picky eater. But I liked him, must be his pretty face. Xiaohongshuan gave me his jade pendant. I was so happy. I told him, I'll bring you a gift tomorrow. His eyes lit up. He let out a quiet, hoarse When I came the next day, Song Zhujun stumbled into my arms. Wounded, he forced himself to speak. Miss, you shouldn't have come today. He was covered in cuts and blood. I panicked, hid him in the woodpile, poured all my medicine on his wounds, and tore my dress to bandage him. But Song Zhujun held my hand and warned me seriously, run. You'll die if you stay. Tears fell. I shook my head. You're my friends. I can't just leave you. Song Zhujun froze. He let go and let me tend to him. Once I finished, I asked where Xiaohongshuan was. I lifted my skirts and ran to the back forest. When I found him, he was already injured and lying on the ground. The second I touched him, he grabbed me, pressing a knife to my neck. It's me. 21. Xiaohongshuan's arm went limp. He half collapsed. You shouldn't have come. I could hear the rustle of approaching men nearby. I didn't answer, I just started pulling off his outer robe. He weakly exclaimed, Are you crazy? You're taking advantage of me now. I ignored him. He couldn't fight me anyway. Soon I had his clothes off. I leaned down to the blushing Xiaohongshuan. Quiet, I'm not messing with you. I'm going to lead the assassins away. It's fine. I know these mountains better than them. He stared at me in disbelief, gripping my hand to stop me. I sighed and looked at him. Fine, just a little. Might be the last chance. I quickly pecked his lips. Xie Hengshuan immediately let go. I ran off. 22. These assassins. Could they run any faster? I hadn't even taken the small path before an arrow hit me. Perfect aim. I staggered, pulled the arrow out. Rolled down the slope. Damn it, why me? I blacked out after that. Later, I recovered at home. I didn't see Song Zhujun again until our wedding. I suddenly felt like throwing up. I coughed up dark blood. A hand wiped my mouth. I mumbled without thinking, never leading assassins again. Hurts too much. The person beside me froze, then shouted for the imperial physician. I lifted a hand to cover his mouth and frowned. So loud, let me die in peace. 23. People rushed around, pouring medicine. Sticking needles in me, noisy and painful. I could only whine with my eyes closed. In the middle of the night, someone held me and whispered in my ear, "Sway Sway, why won't you wake up? If you don't, I'll kiss you, hit me, slap me, please." A few warm drops fell on my eyelids, tingly. I struggled to open my eyes. Xie Hengshuan looked pitiful. I muttered weakly, "Your Highness, you're so noisy. I don't like you anymore." His eyes blazed. He jumped off the bed and called for the physician, dancing around. I thought the doctor should check his brain first. Not good for the crown prince to be crazy. More chaos. The physician stuck needles in my hands and head, then gave me bitter medicine, every time. Xie Hengshuan had to coax me for ages before I drank it. 24. On the night I fully recovered, I finished the last bowl of medicine and asked softly, "Your Highness, what about Song Zhujun?" His eyes darkened. He pulled me onto his lap and gritted unhappily. "What, you miss him?" I nodded. His grip tightened. I quickly shook my head and explained, "Not really. But he was my husband. I should care." Xie Hengshuan was furious. He held me tight. Jealous. Heh, he's the husband, and I'm the secret lover. I didn't argue. He was right. He laughed at my silence, tilted my head up, and tried to kiss me. I turned away, shy. No, someone's watching. Don't let them see us kiss. Xie Hengshuan smiled and tugged my belt, teasing. The Danmu won't see from now on. My eyes widened. I hit him angrily. You could see them too. You were faking it at the temple on purpose. He held my waist and kissed my lips slowly. I wanted to change the story, but you rushed out like a fool. I pulled away, demanding to know everything. Xie Hengshuan grinned lazily. If I hadn't known it was you from the Danmu, I wouldn't have met those corrupt officials. And, Sway Sway, your dancing was completely off the beat. I glared at him, covering his mouth. Then go watch the girls who can dance. I'm just not as good as them. I turned to leave, but he pulled me back. Xie Hengshuan breathed warm air onto my neck and bit my shoulder. I bit him back. He chuckled darkly. "I only watch you. You're perfect everywhere." He set me on the desk and kissed me until I was dizzy. Still, I didn't forget. "Your Highness, can you go easy on Song Zhujun?" He squeezed my waist, voice rough. "Then you'll have to beg me nicely." I think I begged pretty nicely. 25. The next spring, Song Zhujun's assassination case was settled. He was exiled to the border. From prison, he sent me a divorce paper. I saw him off on the day he left. The border was cold, so I gave him a thick robe. "You remember everything now, don't you? You still chose him." I tied the robe for him. "Ajun, you're still an important friend to me. I didn't abandon you back then. Why fixate on love? We could have stayed friends forever." He bowed formally, voice cold. "This official thanks the Crown Princess for her gift." Crown Princess, his final blessing for me. I looked toward the city tower, where Xie Hengshuan stood in the shadows. He'd come to see his childhood companion off. He must be upset. I turned back to Song Zhujun's thin face. "His Highness came to see you too." Song Zhujun almost looked up, then chickened out, as he wished. Xie Hengshuan defied all the courtiers and made me his crown princess. The officials said I was a criminal's ex-wife, unworthy. Xie Hengshuan stood in court with a knife and declared, "If I cannot marry Sway Sway in this life, I might as well castrate myself and live alone." The empress sent me cart after cart of gifts, terrified I wouldn't marry her son. And he'd become a eunuch out of despair. On our wedding night, I teased him, "If you became a eunuch, would you still work?" Xie Hongshuan traced my wedding dress and smiled. "Want me to prove it?"